Not every paying client deserves your representation. I know so many times I would agree to handle a client because they had money and they could pay. And then I realized it was a mistake, that what they wanted me to do for them was not something I was comfortable with, or they were the kind of client I would just never satisfy or never make happy.
Welcome to the Free Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Miles.
The courtroom fell silent. After battling a company with vast resources that dramatically outmatched my client and me, the jury gave us not just a substantial compensatory verdict, but punitive damages as well. And even better yet, the company president was later fired. That should have been the pinnacle of my career, a classic David versus Goliath victory, a complete and total victory. Yet despite this win and dozens of others over 4 decades, I found myself asking the same question that halts so many successful attorneys. Why does achieving everything I thought I wanted still feel so hollow? If you are a successful lawyer who has checked all the boxes, prestigious cases, financial success, peer recognition, but still feel like something's just missing, you're not alone. Today, I'm going to explore why traditional success metrics fail us and how to find true satisfaction in your legal career. See, your practice should serve your life, not consume it. And today, in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you how to build a practice that serves your life instead of wears you out. I want to talk about the success paradox in law. We have all these measures of success: big verdicts, clients, hours billed, titles, partner, equity partner. But what I've learned is those external achievements don't equal internal fulfillment. I found so many lawyers who are so successful by all of those outside metrics, but yet inside, something is missing. Something is lacking. In some way, they have a hole that hasn't been filled by those achievements. And more than that, it seems like the more success we achieve, the more success we need to be fulfilled. I sometimes call it the achievement trap. Whatever we have accomplished, then we want more. And when we accomplish that next title, that next victory, climb that next mountain, we're still not fulfilled. We set a higher target. It just never works. And part of it is the billable hour trap. We see our success measured in tens of hours. We see our success determined by how long it takes us to do something instead of how well we do it. It's not measured by how meaningful our work is or how important or how fulfilling. It's measured by how many hours we spend. And I've learned, and it took me a long time to learn it, that choosing to do what we want and finding the right fit based on our values is so much more important. I graduated #1 in my law school class. I clerked in federal court. I had tons of great references. I literally could have worked anywhere when I finished my federal clerkship, and all the other clerks went to prestigious big law firms. But I didn't. I returned to a small firm where I'd worked in law school, and shortly thereafter transitioned to a different small firm because I wanted to learn to do litigation. And for a long time, I questioned why I did it. Was it fear? What was the reason for making that choice? And only sometimes after things play out can you figure out the answers. And what I learned was it was just the right choice for me. I had independence. I had autonomy. I had 2 great mentors, Dick Lurch and Joe Huseman, who showed me how to be a lawyer, how to try cases, how to have the right combination of humility and courage. I learned to manage my firm. I became a partner after being at then Lurch and Huseman, became Huseman, Jones and Miles. For only 3 years, I became a partner. And some years later, pretty quickly, I was managing it. That was where I was meant to be because it satisfied my values. Success isn't determined by how the world sees you. It isn't determined by how many billable hours you have. It's determined by if you live your life, if you've fashioned a practice that is true to your values, to what's important to you. And there are a lot of mental prisons that we struggle with in the practice of law. The one, of course, is perfectionism. Almost every one of us is a perfectionist. We're never satisfied with our work. And I went through some childhood issues. I was heavy, I was nerdy, I wore goofy glasses, I was picked on and called names. And that made me a perfectionist, and it led me to be obsessed with my academic achievement, finishing number one in my high school, college, and law school classes. But when I got into practice, it burned me out because I was so concerned about, so driven to be perfect, and it just didn't work. And I realized instead of perfectionism, I should strive for excellence. I should find a way to have sustainable high performance, performance that is achievable and fulfilling without being constantly frustrating like my perfectionism was. And the other that so many of us struggle with is imposter syndrome. I felt like a fraud despite so many wins. Even after that victory I mentioned above, I still felt like, was I lucky? Was it really me? So many of us feel that. And then we struggle with our always available mentality. It didn't used to be like that when I first started practicing, but now in the age of text messaging and emails and instant gratification, our clients, other attorneys expect immediate responses. They know we have the technology now to always be available on our computers or our iPhones. And that always available mentality just becomes another prison because we can never feel like we have the freedom to be with our family, to practice our hobby, to do what we enjoy doing. And so I've learned it's very important to set boundaries in our relationships with our clients and with the other attorneys and even with folks in our office. And we can set those boundaries without losing clients because they will respect them. When I call my doctor, I don't expect he's going to answer the phone. I expect in due course he'll give me an answer, and an intelligent answer, and I will have his attention. But we don't have to be constantly available to our clients and to other lawyers. And there are a lot of tools I've talked about how to overcome these prisons of perfectionism and imposter syndrome and the always available mentality. I love the idea of keeping a wins journal, writing down each day the victories we had, both big and small, winning a case, having a motion decide our way, getting a new client, getting a thank you note from a client, whatever it might be, because that helps with our imposter syndrome. I've talked about how to pretend you're giving advice to another colleague who's sharing his journey with you. And look at yourself as if you're speaking to yourself from the perspective of another attorney friend. What would you tell yourself about your career? You would tell yourself that your track record shows you're good and successful. So use that technique of speaking to yourself as if you were another attorney relating the same concerns. And I really think reframing is important. Change "I'm not good enough" to "what can I do to get better? How can I improve? How can I grow?" Set communication policies to set boundaries with your clients. Let them know you're not always going to be there to answer the phone, but you will get back to them. So these mental prisons are always answers to, and sometimes we feel trapped by them, but I spend a lot of time coaching my clients on how to break free from those mental prisons. The key to finding satisfaction in your practice is to build a practice that serves you, not a practice that owns you. So what are some of the keys to that? Well, the first is choosing your clients carefully. Not every paying client deserves your representation. I know so many times I would agree to handle a client because they had money and they could pay. And then I realized it was a mistake, that what they wanted me to do for them was not something I was comfortable with, or they were the kind of client I would just never satisfy or never make happy. So be conscious of who you select as your clients. Not only are you competent to handle their matter, not only do you have the space to handle it, but are they the kind of person you want to serve? Are there red flags that make you uncomfortable about representing that person? The second key is to set protective boundaries. Set email and telephone communication policies and boundaries that really work, but also improve your client's service. I talk to some of my coaching clients. I say, how many times do you check your email? I say 3, 4 times a day. They said more than 4 times an hour. It's a constant thing. It's sort of an addiction for many of us lawyers. So set an email policy. You only check it every 3 hours, say at 9, 12, 3, and 6 before leaving the office. Anything that someone sends you an email can wait 3 hours. Nothing is urgent. And then when you check it at noon, answer all the emails that came in at once, or take the ones that are spam or not important and delete them. Do whatever you need to do, but handle them all at once instead of interrupting your work constant times between 9 and 12 to fix those emails. Set communication policies that you'll get back to your clients within 24 hours, but often will not be available right when they call because you're working on matters for other clients. Let your clients know not to contact you on the weekend unless it's absolutely critical. And discuss with them what would be something critical that they could reach out to you on the weekend. Set up systems for more efficiently handling your process using either AI or other software tools to organize and track your work. Work on delegating to your staff. Don't be afraid to let your paralegal or legal assistant help you out because you deserve that support. And perfectionism sometimes keeps us from delegating to others, but train them. Invest time in their ability to do some work for you and free yourself from that. You don't have to do everything yourself. And look at alternative fee models. The billable clock drives so many people crazy. It creates conflicts between the law firm and you because they expect you to bill more hours than you're comfortable with. It creates conflicts between you and your client because they want their work done more quickly and the billable hour rewards it being done more slowly. So look at other matters. Look at handling certain things on a flat fee. I had an insurance company I did a lot of work for, and we had cases in Maryland. Is called our district court. It was our small claims court, only handled cases of $30,000 or $35,000. And I told them, instead of me billing you hourly, how about I handle this on a flat fee of $3,500? And they were thrilled. They were thrilled. And you know what happened? I made much more money per hour doing that because I could work very efficiently. I could get the case settled early. They were happy to have it settled early for a cost they could plan on. And I made more money per hour. It really works. Use value-based pricing. How many things today do you buy on an hourly basis? I had major landscaping project done a couple of years ago at our home in Pinehurst. And it was everything. Lawn was taken up, all the bushes removed, completely redoing our landscaping. And they gave me a flat fee of what it would cost. It sounded like a lot. They are the best in town, but I thought it was a lot of money. But if they had said to me, we're going to charge you $50 an hour, this is the work we're going to do, but we don't know how many hours it's going to take, and we don't know what your final charge will be. It might be $10,000, it might be $40,000. I would have said no. I would have said no. So clients appreciate having a model where they know what their costs are up front and they're willing to pay them. With your experience, you're able to do that. And then you'll find you're in greater synergy with your clients. Why? Because you both want to get the case done more quickly and more efficiently. They're paying the same either way. So they'd rather have a good result sooner and more quickly than longer. So to build a practice that works for you, look at choosing your clients carefully, setting up protective boundaries around emails and phone calls. Set up systems in the office to help you to be more efficient. Focus on delegating to your associate attorney, your paralegal, your legal assistant. and be creative about how you bill your clients so it's not all based on the hourly model. The second major area that causes so much stress for clients for lawyers, is the fact that we feel so alone. We feel isolated. Whether you're a solo attorney like I was for some of my career, or whether you're in a small firm or a big firm, so many lawyers feel alone and isolated. We're always in competition. We're often in adversarial relationships. We work so hard, we don't have time to connect with each other. There's sort of this myth of a lawyer being toiling away as a lone wolf trying to get things done, but that damages our profession. Back in the day, we lawyers would connect with each other in a much more personal way than we do now. We'd spend much more time on the phone than in emails. And we'd meet for lunch and we'd talk about our cases. My partners, Dick Lurch and Joe Huseman, they were in a lunch group. They went to a local lunch club every day of the week. They wouldn't necessarily go every day, but they had the lunch meeting every day of the week. There might be 10 lawyers who participated, and maybe 4 or 5, 6 or 7 would come each week. Same time, every day, every week, every year. But what happened is they built this connection. They would tell war stories. They would express their concerns, and they build real relationships. Try to find a way to co-counsel with someone outside your firm. Some years ago, one of my law school classmates who I remain friends with, Erwin Weiss, one of the best trial attorneys in Maryland, called me and said, would you like to handle a mold case with me? I said, Erwin, I don't know anything about mold. He says, neither do I. That's why I wanted to get you to handle it for me. But instead, he said, how about we handle it together? We were completely different styles lawyers. I was organized, methodical. He was down to earth and chill and relaxed. And together we made just a great team. We got an amazing $300,000 verdict on a property damage case in a very conservative county. But more than that, we supported each other. We laughed. We learned from each other. We enjoyed what we did. It was so fulfilling and really so much fun. Look at getting a mentor. The clients that I work with, they love having someone they could talk to openly and honestly and in a safe way. Someone who they trust, someone who supports them and lifts them. And they give me so many gifts as well. I learn from them. I learn what it's like to be a young lawyer today. And we both grow together. And mentoring relationships are simply amazing. Dick Lurch and Joe Huseman were my mentors when I was learning to practice law, and they supported me so much. Build a support network of colleagues who you like and who you trust, where you meet regularly on some basis, once a month dinner, twice a month lunches, whatever it might be, and really build a connection with them. Not just to refer cases back and forth, but where you really open yourselves up to them. And I want to give you some suggestions about a way you can begin today to make your practice more enjoyable. The first is to have some daily practices of just a little bit of reflection. Start your morning with 5 minutes reflecting on what your values are today, how you hope to be present with your clients and with the other attorneys and with your colleagues today, what your why is, what you're trying to accomplish, what your values are, and how you're going to practice law that day consistent with those values. In the middle of the day, take a break. How did your morning go? What things did you do well? What things could you have done better? What did you learn? And then at the end of the day, take some time to reflect on what you've accomplished. And think about what you want to get done tomorrow and plan your day for tomorrow. Prioritize what you have to get done and when, and pick the most difficult project you have to do first. And think about the folks who served you or helped you in some way today, and if you can, express your gratitude to them for a job well done. Each week, spend 30 minutes to think about your week and ask yourself questions like these. What work energized you that week? What did you do that drained you or caused you frustration? Which relationships do you have professionally that support your success? What boundaries do you need strengthening? And if there's one thing you could change to improve your experience for the next week, what would it be? So spend some time to really reflect on how your week went. And does your practice serve you in the way you want to? And if it doesn't, what changes do you need to make? And then every month, measure your progress, not the billable hours, but your progress towards creating that practice of your dream. And I suggest you start with one boundary that would most improve your life. Maybe it's limiting how many times you look at your emails, or setting communication boundaries with your clients or other attorneys, whatever it might be. Our profession, it's pretty tough. I get it. After 40 years in this profession, from being that bullied, overweight kid with thick glasses to managing partner to where I am today coaching lawyers, I've learned this. True satisfaction is not about winning more cases, and it's not about billing more hours. It's about creating alignment between who you are and how you practice, creating alignment between how you practice and what your values are, your essential characteristics, your goals. Our profession desperately needs attorneys who are not just technically excellent, but personally fulfilled. Lawyers who can model a healthier, more sustainable approach to practice. You didn't become a lawyer to be miserable, did you? You became a lawyer to make a difference. And your practice should serve your life, not consume it. And here's the thing, when you get this alignment right, when you align your practice with your values and your vision for your future, you don't sacrifice excellence. You actually enhance it. Because fulfilled lawyers are better lawyers. If today's conversation resonated with you, if you're ready to transform your relationship with your practice without sacrificing the professionalism and excellence that define your work, let's talk. You can visit the show notes below and schedule a complimentary coaching call, or you can go to GaryMiles.net. After helping countless attorneys break free from limiting mindsets, I'm passionate about supporting your journey toward not just success, but through true, genuine satisfaction and fulfillment. Remember, you have permission to redefine success on your own terms. The question is not whether you're successful enough. It's really whether you're satisfied enough. And that, my friend, is entirely within your control. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, please be well, be safe, and be free.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Free Lawyer Podcast. Wherever you are listening, if you enjoyed what I shared, please leave me a rating and review. I would appreciate hearing more about what you like best and what topics you might like me to cover in future episodes. If you are interested in experiencing a more fulfilling and a more successful life, please contact me at www.GaryMiles.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me so I can learn more about you, your challenges, and your dreams. I appreciate each and every one of you, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks to all of you for your support.